good afternoon or evening, depending on what side of the pond you're on, and welcome to Across the Pitch. We're the soccer show for people who think Roughneck is a Leeds United fan. Now, Darren, we all know how popular the Leeds fans over there are in the UK. And the reason that we brought up Roughneck is because there's a team that you've taken a bit of a shine to here in the U.S. called the Tulsa Roughnecks. And the Tulsa Roughnecks actually refer to the oil industry in the Oklahoma area. And an oil rig worker, another name for an oil rig worker, is a roughneck. But if you do consult the dictionary and look up the first definition of roughneck, it really describes a Leeds United fan to a T. It says a rough and uncouth person, ruffian, thug, scoundrel, villain, rogue, rascal, lout, hooligan, hoodlum, vandal, delinquent, rowdy. That sounds about like a Leeds fan. Don't you think, Darren?
Well, I do know a few Leeds fans, so I'm reluctant to comment. I've got to go to work with some, so I think I better stay quiet on that one, Phil.
Oh, now, of course, we're just giving a bit of a hard time, as we like to do here from time to time on Across the Pitch. And now this is going to be our third episode of Season 2. My name is Phil Kennedy, and you may remember Darren Woodhead, who joined us as a guest a few times last year and has also written some articles on the website. For Season 2, Darren is now going to become a regular part of the podcast and be our voice on the street in Lancashire, if you will. So welcome to the team full time, Darren, and thanks for joining me here today.
Thanks, Phil. Really looking forward to it. You've just made sure I can't visit Leeds on my travels now, though. I'm just I'm hoping Accrington don't pull them out in the hat for the FA Cup.
Now, your book, which is the first thing that we talked about, and is actually how I originally got to know you, was from talking to you about your book. It has finally come off the presses. It has finally been mailed out, and I'm hearing that you're getting some great responses. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the book release for 50 Years of Accrington Stanley?
Right, so the subscribers have had the copies sent this week in the post. UK first. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit longer to get the copies to you guys in the States. There's one or two in the States, Australia, and elsewhere in around the world, which is great. And
Fantastic.
then for people who are picking up the copies who've subscribed, there's a couple of events. The Supporters Club shop in Accrington on Friday, and then the season ticket collection night next Thursday. And I'll be signing some copies for anyone who wants me to. And we've got orders for around 300 copies. The Supporters Club have been fantastic in supporting me, especially Peter Leatham. You know, they've posted all the copies out, etc. And
I've started Peter to get some feedback. Fantastic guy. Can't say enough about Peter.
Wow, the amount of work that guy puts in. I went around to his house with some books at the weekend. He's got his own office set up there, just working away at the Supporters Club. He's obviously got a little bit of time on his hands now because he's had a successful career, in business, and now he's bringing that into the structure of the Supporters Club, and he's really moved us on leaps and bounds.
It's really fantastic, the things that he's doing over there with the Supporters Club, and how much, like you said, he has been involved with helping you with getting the book out. And to have 300 copies sold already, that's really a great number for just now having the book come out. The season hasn't even started yet, and I'm, like you said, I'm still waiting for my copy to come in the post, but I cannot wait to get my hands on it. You signed mine for me, right?
Yeah, it's signed, definitely. There's a little bit of Stanley memorabilia popped inside yours, so we can have a little bit of chat around that maybe next time I'm on.
I can't wait for that. And
Yeah.
and speaking of things in the post, I did send something to you in the post last week, and you're going to now have some across the pitch magnets to hand out in Lancashire, right?
Yeah, there's a few of that. Yeah, I'll be able to get those to some people around us. I think the first one who's going to need one is Mick Shackleton, our friend Mick Shack, who you'll find on Twitter, who always films all the goals at Stanley from the Clayton end. He actually won a little competition, didn't he, to win a fridge magnet.
A trivia contest on a question that I actually took out of your first book that you sent me, which was about who the first team that Stanley ever played. So I'm going to put you on the spot since this was in your book. Who was the first team they played in 1970 after the reformation?
Yeah, so that was Formby. Yeah, if I didn't know that one, I'd be struggling, wouldn't I? Yeah.
Well, thanks for being a good sport, because anytime I ask you something out of your own book. But tell us a little bit about the new book, because I know that's what everybody is itching to hear about, and it's about 58 pages, was it?
Yep. Yeah. So there's season by season, one page for each of the seasons since they reformed in 1968, and then there's an introduction. There's also a couple of special pages at the end of the book. I was reluctant to focus on too many individuals because it's been a joint effort for so many people. There's been managers, players, chairman, board members, volunteers, etc. But I had to single John Coleman and Jimmy Bell out and do a page on their input into Stanley when you think it's almost 20 years and the club's only been reformed for 50. So it's been a massive chunk of our success has been those two. And then another page I put in for David Hargreaves as our record goal scorer, who sadly passed away last year. And I've done a page on him. So then there's all the subscribers who've managed to have the name in the book, which has been a good bit of fun, and people like to see the name in the book. I've took a couple to some friends' houses tonight, and they're thrilled to see that, which is nice.
Now, speaking of, like you said, there's been so many folks that have contributed to the history of Accrington Stanley and the growth of the team over the past 50 years. And I know that voting recently closed on this. And honestly, personally, I didn't submit for the Accrington Stanley Hall of Fame only because I could tell you the people from the last few years, but I just didn't feel like I quite knew enough of the history to have correct input. But if anybody has the knowledge to input who should be nominated for the Accrington Stanley Hall of Fame, I'm interested to hear who were your nominees for that, Darren.
All right. Well, it's quite interesting that the guy I nominated probably won't be in the 10. Just a personal favourite of mine was Lutel James. But I could, to be honest, I could have picked probably 10, 20 players. And we will be adding to the 10 that have been inducted initially. So there's going to be an area set aside in the fan zone. And there's going to be a photograph of the player, and there's going to be a write-up. And we're hoping to invite families of players who've sadly passed away, or the players who are inducted. We can invite those who are still with us, and I think there's 10. The list hasn't been announced yet. David Hargreaves will be in that 10. There's no doubt about that. I could have easily said Dave Hargreaves, and I knew he'd be in anyway. So I was being a little bit mischievous when I said Lutel James, but really Dave Hargreaves was a given. And it's been interesting because there's been a couple of players from the 1950s who people have gone for, which is very nice. I mean, obviously, I've never seen them play, but there are a few of our older supporters who remember them from the old days at Peel Park.
So this is going to incorporate the history all the way back to the 1888 club?
Yeah, anybody was up for nomination, so that's going to be nice. It gives us a little link back to the Peel Park days. I'm almost sure that a guy called Walter Keel is going to be in there. I've mentioned him in a article on the Across the Pitch website. He was around when the Second World War broke out. His career got interrupted, so he was like a local favourite.
Oh, yes,
and then
yes.
and then there's another guy, George Stewart, who scored over 100 goals for Stanley back in the 1950s, and he was from Scotland, a place called Buckie in Scotland, and he's got a lot of votes on there, and he's quite a legend in Accrington, even now. The older supporters still talk about him.
Now, out of people that I know, and like I said, I mean, you're mentioning guys that 70 years ago that I'm certainly not familiar with, but certainly I would think that John Coleman would have to be a guy that would be getting a mention. I would think Eric Wally would have to be a guy that would be getting a mention.
Yeah, I think as far as I can see, Peter's got planned 2 areas. So we've got the Hall of Fame for the players, and then I think there's going to be some kind of recognition of all the people off the field, like a timeline, so to speak, over the last 50 years of people who've contributed, chairman, managers, etc., volunteers. So it's going to really make the area quite interesting. Match days. You're going to be able to see all these photographs of people, and it'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really great to see that the team along, you have your 50 years of book coming out, you have the Hall of Fame where the team is really starting to recognize its history. And now talking a little bit about current team history, and let's kind of actually move in that direction to talk about the upcoming season a bit. And one thing that everybody's kind of talking about and doesn't really know what's going on with it is a guy who honestly will probably be an Accrington Hall of Famer one day, and that, of course, is Billy Key. And it's sounding like Billy Key may not be back with the club next year. What have you heard about that, and how are things with Billy?
Well, I don't know the complete details. I just know he's not around the squad at the moment for whatever reason. So it's looking very unlikely that he'll start the season. I'm not sure why. I don't know. It is a shame one way or another if Billy doesn't come back and join us again. I don't know if it's football reasons or something else. I'm not too sure either way. But if he doesn't, for me, he'll still go down as an Accrington Stanley legend anyway, and hopefully he'll continue his career elsewhere, and he'll be well in himself if that's the case. I'm not too sure on the details really, Phil.
That's the biggest thing. Of course, we want to see him back next year, but I hope that if he's not back with Stanley next year, that we certainly see him pop up and have success somewhere else, because that's the biggest thing is that, yeah, he's been a guy that's given so much to the club over the years.
Oh, yeah. He's played his part, especially in the last 4 or 5 years. He's led the line. He's done us proud whenever he's played. So if he is to move on, it'd be my best wishes to him. Hopefully, though, he may come back yet. So we don't know yet.
Now, there's been a lot of news around the club lately. It seems like you log on, every time I log on to Twitter or Facebook, there's another new signing.
Yeah.
What are some of the signings that you're most excited about that you've seen coming up?
Like you say, Phil, every time you go on, there's a new signing, and I'll be totally honest, I'm having to go on Google every time we sign somebody and look into the history and the career stats, because they're not players who I recognise. So, but I can understand where they're coming from. They're trying to find some hungry players in the lower leagues, the non-leagues, etc. And rather than go for players who are on their way down, and I think they probably recognise that we had too many loan players last season. So to bolster the squad with big numbers, they're going to have to shop around, not exactly for bargains, but getting value for money. And the value for money is in the non-league, really. And they do have a good scouting network. So, yeah, hopefully things will pay off.
I was going to say, it seems like they're making a specific effort to make the roster younger also.
Yeah, definitely. And I think they do tell players if they do well at the club, there's a chance to move on. They'll find them a good deal. Like it's. I think that's the model going forward. Get them in, give them plenty of game time, and hopefully enhance their career. I mean, one player they've signed is Colby Bishop, so he's a striker. He's been around a few non-league clubs, but he seemed quite prolific for Leamington. So let's hope. I noticed he scored a goal in a friendly game the other night.
I did see that on Twitter.
Yeah, so like sometimes if you get a good start, especially with players who are moving up a level or two, they need that good start, especially strikers, get a little bit of confidence and things can develop. I mean, Caden Jackson, a fine example. He managed to do well for us, get a big move to Ipswich. I know it didn't work out initially, but he's scoring a few goals pre-season for Ipswich, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it really seems like in the scores from the friendlies that I've seen coming back that it's been up and down, but that's something that you kind of expect, and I never hold too much stock of the result of friendlies.
No.
What types of things do you feel like John Coleman is working on in the friendlies that you've seen so far?
Well, I've only been to one when we played Marseille. What stuck out for me is normally we're rebuilding a team every season, but we do have quite a lot of players from last season, so we've got the basis of a decent team, a squad. So it's just a case of sprinkling these new guys in. I think we're a little bit light up front yet, especially if Billy doesn't come back. We do need an experienced striker for me. But friendlies, like you said, you can't read too much into them. The only thing I do like to see with friendlies, if strikers are scoring a few goals, that gives them confidence. Any kind of football, even in training, if they're scoring goals, they're happy, aren't they, strikers?
I haven't heard of Chris Cortez signing anywhere yet, so.
Well, you never know, do you?
Wouldn't that be something?
Huh? Yeah, you never know, do you? He seems like he's ready to go anywhere in the world, doesn't it?
Yeah. Chris, if you're listening, Accrington needs another striker.
Yeah, he fit the bill. He's a big guy, isn't he? And could lead the line.
Yeah, I mean, he really is a very similar player to Billy Key.
Yeah, I've seen a few clips of him. I've never seen him in a full game, but he seems like quite a physical player and decent technique.
Yeah, very, very much so. He's a guy that gets in the right place at the right time, and he's actually celebrating a birthday today. So happy birthday, Chris, if you're listening. Kind of circling back to what we were talking about, and with the new signings of the upcoming season. Last year, the team got off to a really strong start and then kind of struggled in the middle of the season and then finished strong to stay up in League One. This year, I'm thinking that we might see a little bit of an opposite, and I'm not going to panic if over the first 5 or 6 games of the season that we're not seeing the results we want, because with as many new players coming in, I feel like that this is a team that's going to take some time to build, but I really expect to see them be able to finish strong down the stretch with all of these new pieces coming into the puzzle. What do you think, Darren?
Yeah, and they've got quite a lot of young players as well, so you don't know who haven't played at this level before, so it's going to take them a while to find their feet. Some of them might hit the ground running, so it's difficult to say. I think we probably need another goalkeeper as well now, so we lost Johnny Maxted.
I saw that.
To Exeter, yeah, so we obviously got Timov, but he was.
Oh, do we still have Eptimov? I thought he was alone.
No, he's here. He had a little bit of a up and down period at the end of the season. He had some good games where he made some good saves, but he managed to get himself sent off twice in the run-in. So,
well, one of those times he probably shouldn't have been. In fact, honestly, both of those he shouldn't have been, because one of them was rescinded. The other time was because a fan threw a bottle at him, and all he did was just toss it off of the field. So, I mean, he wasn't maliciously throwing it. He was just getting the bottle off the pitch.
No,
but
I don't think he'll do it again, will he? So.
Well, aside from that, I will tell you, he's an interesting guy to watch because he's just a guy. He's going to make the game interesting, and there's going to be times that you want to kill him. But to me, the series that I saw last year that kind of was him in a nutshell was when he ended up getting a yellow card, causing a penalty kick, and then saving the penalty kick.
Yeah, so like you say, there's always something going off around him, but he may just settle down now. I mean, he'd just come into the team, and we were struggling at the time, so it may be different if he gets a pre-season under his belt, and he may just be a different type of character altogether this season.
He certainly seems to be a guy that has the talent, and maybe we'll get a chance to talk to him here before the end of the year.
Yeah, maybe.
How about our friend Callum Johnson? He's back this year. Have you seen him out on the training pitch at all?
I believe I didn't see the game the other night, but I believe he played very well. I think he crossed for the goal, for Stanley's goal. By all reports, he had a good game. So it's a big season for Callum, I think, this season. I think he needs to probably just kick on now. Because he's a steady player, but he just needs to probably kick on and a few more crosses in there, because he does attack well, and it's just sometimes the final ball. If he just improves that, his career, he could go on leaps and bounds, really.
Oh, absolutely.
He's got everything else.
I remember at one time last year, and I don't know how it finished off, but I know it was about 2/3 of the way through the season. He was actually leading League One in crosses into the box, and now you said he's already, set one up that way in the preseason, and now this is going to be his 3rd season with the club, and I think he's going to be 24 years old going into this season. So, that's around the time that guys really start to make that step up to the next level. And it might end up being his last year with the team, just because we might see him in the championship next year.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why not. He's got all the attributes. He's and he's a good professional. If he just keeps going and doing what he's doing, I'm sure he will get a decent move at some time.
Now, one guy that did play a big role last year that won't be back for sure is Paul Smith. I saw last week that he's gone on loan to Wickham. Do you think that he's somebody we're going to miss, or you seem to think, from what I heard from you the other day, as we brought in some guys that could probably replace him?
Yeah, he was an impact player, and I think he'll do okay. I think he'll have a decent career. He did well in patches. Some games he looked he was a real match winner for us in many games. And then other games he struggled. He struggled to get into the team, and his height probably, if the game's anyone's playing long ball, he can get a little bit lost. But if you give him the right ball, he's got some pace, and he can finish. So he's got a lot going for him. I think I can see him scoring quite a lot of goals wherever he is.
Yeah, by my count, I thought he was worth 6 points down the stretch, because there was 2 games where he really was the scoring, and Stanley ended up winning both of those matches. And I was hoping to see that they would hang on to him, but we wish him well in Wickham, except for when they're playing Stanley.
Yeah, what I did notice about Paul Smith is the 2 of his best games were Sunderland away and Doncaster away, and both of those stadiums, they've got big pitches, they've got good pitches. He's very much a footballer. But if you play on some of the pitches, and ours was one of them, to be honest, last season, we were as bad as anyone in the division, and he did struggle. We've got a small, tight ground. The pitch was bobbly, and he struggled to get in the game. But if you put him on a good pitch, there's plenty of space. He'll hurt teams, yeah.
Well, that's, I think, a perfect segue to the next thing that we want to talk about. And I understand that you did get a few minutes with the man himself the other day, and I had a chance to talk with Andy Holt about some of the improvements going on at the ground, and including, of course, the new pitch. So tell us about what's happening there at the WAM.
Yeah, so I was down there last Friday. We made a little promotional video for the book. And
You can see that on our homepage, acrossthepitch.com. If you go there, you can see the video and buy a copy of the book. It's on our website for $10 US.
Okay, that's great stuff, Phil. Thanks. So Andy was down at the ground. You know, he keeps everyone on their toes because there's a lot of builders around and there's new sponsorship boards going up. And he obviously lives and breathes it. And he was, I got opportunity to chat for him for a few minutes. He was just talking about the pitch, which it looks absolutely fantastic. It's just, it's completely level now where there used to be a bit of a run on it. He's spent a fortune putting this new pitch in place, and it looks great. We've never had a pitch like that in the 50 years that the club's been there, and it's hopefully it's going to make a difference because John Coleman does like to play football with his teams. He just hasn't had the pitch to do it, and that's probably why sometimes you do see Stanley pick up good results on the road, and hopefully we'll be able to get it down and play now.
Well, over here we have a saying that when you say something looks like $1 million, and the pitch, it might not have cost quite that much, but it certainly looks like $1 million.
Yeah, well, it's cost enough. I don't know how much exactly, but it was some significant investment, and I know probably Andy did want to spend some money on the clubhouse, etc., and some of the infrastructure that's just had to be put on hold because that was a necessity in sorting that out. And I'm sure the other things will get done because he's done nearly everything at the ground now. So I think the pitch is everything, isn't it, to a football club who wants to play football?
Oh yeah, I mean it's where you play the game. I mean,
yeah, I've noticed Tulsa's pitch is a little bit interesting, isn't it?
Yes, they so now the Tulsa Roughnecks, who we mentioned a bit in the opener, and we have a little bit of an interview coming up related. Why don't you tell us about that, Darren?
Yeah, so we've got Dave Saunders, who's the announcer at Tulsa. I've been in touch with him on Twitter since I've had my little spell of following Tulsa, which was done for a little bit of a laugh, but initially, but I've got to make contact with a few Tulsa Roughneck fans and officials, and Dave's going to be joining us for a chat on Sunday evening. He's a guy who's from the UK originally. He's from Exeter area. I think he's got an interest in Arsenal as well, Phil. So that should be interesting for yourself.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah, so another connection. But in my voyage of discovery into US football, I've also been looking at Tulsa's initiatives for bringing the dogs to the game, which is something new to me. I've noticed the bikes and the brews.
Yeah, they're actually having a wiener dog race at halftime.
Yeah, I don't think that'd go down too well at Accrington. It might do for a bit of a laugh. It does amuse me, some of these initiatives and promotions that go on in some of these clubs. I know there were the one with the farm animals that you...
Well, I'll tell you, speaking of promotions, Accrington did hit the big time today. I heard that there's a new hot sauce. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter, yeah. I think Daniel Boabanco, a commercial manager, tweeted, he wanted to get some over as a little trial that they can try them with the hot dogs at the game.
Yeah, I guess the something basically ended up with this line of hot sauces, and these are mostly all hot sauces, big clubs like Manchester United and Liverpool and Chelsea, and then so evidently something having to do with licensing for Juventus prevented the hot sauce company from using Juventus anymore. So they replaced it with, I believe, Accy Attack hot sauce. And so now Accrington Stanley is on the same shelf with all these big six Premier League teams. So the way I see things is it's only
quite
a matter
so.
of time. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, quite rightly so. That's where we belong, Phil.
I can't argue with that. I think that we've talked about a lot of the different things that are happening around Stanley, happening with your book, and of course our big Roughnecks interview that we have coming up on Sunday. But before we wrap up, let's circle back around and talk about the book a little bit more, because I didn't feel like we quite got into it as deep as we could have at the beginning of the show. So let me ask you this: what was your favorite chapter that you had in the book?
Obviously the promotion seasons were the probably my favourite ones. They were, I could have probably carried on writing those for forevermore. You know, a full book on each one of them. I had to stop myself. Whereas some of the seasons, you know, you were scratching around for key moments, and but I think the promotion, all the 4 promotion seasons, I particularly like the first one under John Coleman and Jimmy Bell in 99-2000, because that set everything going really, and it's a special time just thinking about how it all evolved. They were still playing managers, and it was good fun. I think that was my favourite season.
1999.
Yeah.
Another thing that we talked about a couple times before, but we hadn't really gotten started with, is so you have the new book coming out, but you have already written 2 other books about Accrington Stanley that are out of print right now. But we had talked about where we're going to start putting some excerpts from your old books on the Across the Pitch website soon. What are some of the things that we might look forward to that you consider the classic bits out of your old books that you want to have us put up here on the website soon?
Yeah, so things I'm probably going to be looking at over this English winter is pulling some player profiles together from ex-players. So in both of the books, I had different kinds of players and legends, and if I can pull together the whole of the careers, even after Stanley, and summarise it with a photograph, it might be good to put a little Accrington Stanley legends section to Across the Pitch, so we can look at as a little bit of fun and try and get some guests on around that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that among the other things that we're doing with Across the Pitch, that one of the things that we're doing most with this show is kind of establishing ourselves as a headquarters of Accrington Stanley in a way where you can come to find anything that you want to know, whether it be current players, whether it be history about the club, and certainly over the next year and throughout season 2, we're going to continue to, if anything, do more Accrington Stanley than we did even during the first season.
Well, that's good news. I'm sure it all helps with the profile of the club, especially in the States. And I noticed, a few people are getting involved, and there's books going out there, and people in general just going on the Across the Pitch website from both sides of the Atlantic, really, which is nice.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of good things ahead for the club, and like we said, now that they have their own hot sauce, there's only one way to go from here.
Yeah, red hot.
The original Reds.
Yeah, the original red hot sauce.
Did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about today, dear?
No, I'm fine, Phil.
All right, well, I really enjoyed it, and I looked forward to talking to you more in Season 2, and certainly once the Stanley season kicks off, we will have plenty to talk about every week, and we'll also have Matt is going to be joining us for an episode, so we're actually going to have one episode with Aaron that you already heard this week, one episode with Darren, which is this one, and then another episode with Matt coming up. So plenty of Across the Pitch to keep you guys busy as we get kicked off for Season 2.